been successful over the years based on my respect, my discipline, and my hard work ethic. There are things that I wish I could have done better and worked smarter, and there are things that opportunities I could have taken advantage of that I missed.
Tell me a little bit about productivity, because I mean, you are like an animal when it comes to just like getting something done. A lot of times, like even doing busy work instead of like the actual work. Tell me a little bit about how you be productive and how you give advice with that.
A big part of productivity, like if you talk about physical stuff in a factory, like I show up and they're loading a 40-foot trailer, Kevin can complain quite a bit, but in the end, I'm going to be the guy out there after work holding the flashlight to help you work on your car or change a tire. But if you look at the productivity in a physical manifestation, there's things, some are very complicated. Like you can send me some files like DWG or certain things like that. I'll be like, wow, I can't even open that. Send that to my CAD guy. If you look at productivity from mental, I don't suffer fools. I like to say things once. If you think everything is going great in your business, no way. Try and lower your costs. I like to tell my employees, if you don't ask for a discount, you're not going to get one.
Hey guys, this is John Cloud with the $100 Million Podcast. Our $100 Million guest today is Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing?
Great.
Awesome. Kevin, introduce yourself. We want to hear all about you.
Well, I'm very happy you called $100 million. I never thought I'd get that contract. I like to tell people I'm the best thing that ever happened in the rainforest. We go into these degraded old hot cattle farms and plant trees all over them. And over the last 34 years, fastest overnight success ever, we've gotten incredible success in making world-class furniture and other products. We're FSC certified. We've got chain of custody, sustainable. We're a for-profit business based in democratic Costa Rica that shows people that you can do really well by helping the environment and empowering people in making world-class products. We make very high-end, expensive furniture. I brought a little bench here. We call it a maquette or something. In fact, this guy's even harder to make than the real bench piece, the miniature. And then that's what we got on my card as well. I like to show people. I go to Europe and visit clients there, and they come out and have my bench on their business card, which shows you you're doing something right.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you and Kevin got to get together, and you guys are... He's buying tables from you, or?
Well, what we're going to do is promote some of our stuff. We make a line of planters and trellises on our Diamond Tropical Hardwoods brand, and then the Diamond Teak brand that we make the high-end furniture, and a lot of stuff that we private label for companies like Knoll and Henry Hall Design, Sutherland Teak. Those guys have their own showrooms, their own catalogs, how they market their furniture. And I can't sell that to you direct. You have to buy those from the companies we private label for. But we make a lot of amazing furniture and stuff like George Washington's fruit tree boxes from Mount Vernon, Thomas Jefferson's Almonington benches, Monticello stuff. It's kind of cool when I go to these places like Dunbar Noaks in Washington, D.C., and I'll see all this furniture that we made there. It's very very inspiring. Like when I first started planting trees, it was very difficult. Like the tropical sun, the incredibly hard work as a farmer. It's difficult to explain because for 7 years, I worked in these old cattle farms reforesting, and initially when we started, the sun was so bright, like by 10:30 in the morning, I would have these massive headaches. I'd wear double hats and these big, I call them old lady gardening shirts with like long sleeves and collars I would roll up. Sometimes I would dump buckets of water on my head. And it's difficult when you first start a new business and something that you haven't done before. It's not like my parents or my grandparents had handed this to me. I went into it kind of, not even as a rookie or as somebody who was new, but just I didn't know anything about agronomy. I didn't know anything about soils. I just went into it with a really hard work ethic as an entrepreneur, started planting trees, and it started to work well. And then I had some people come in and want to invest, and that gave me the pat on the back and a little self-confidence. And here we are 34 years later making some of the finest furniture in the world.
That's awesome. Well, that's awesome. And you guys, you've scaled this from just buying a bunch of land because you had another successful business, but you've made millions just in the furniture and the tree business.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've had the opportunity to work with a lot of world famous designers, and a lot of our clients are on the list where they've got our primarily outdoor furniture that we make. I mean, I've got a little picture, a little bench here that I like to show people that's very comfortable and designed by this guy who designed the first modular furniture in the 1970s, like futons and stuff. He made millions of dollars on his patents. Gone out of the way, worked really hard to get the best designers to help me with different lines of furniture, different products, help us with machinery and processes and stuff. Like, I know what I don't know, and that's something at the age of 58 that I've realized more and more, that there's really little that I know, and if I can keep my big mouth shut and ask the right questions and listen and try and learn. Like, it's something that's helped me a lot. Like, I remember when I went to a facility one time, I was checking out the architecture and how this place was built. It's a sustainable project in northwest Costa Rica. I was with Will Rapp, the founder of Gardener Supply, who was a mentor to me for many years. And the old timer was in this house. He's like, "Who's this guy with you?" He's like looking around like a little kid. And it's kind of like that attitude and the energy level that I bring that's made me so successful in business. I've had the opportunity in life to get a good education at Harvard. I've had the opportunity to have some investors and some people who've helped me over the years and some people who mentored me. And I try and give that back as well. But we've been really successful at getting like the most durable, hardest, most valuable, like the diamond, hardest, most valuable, the tropical, all our woods are for the tropics and hardwoods. We've got 6 species that we've reforested that are doing really well. Like 3 of these species are now on the CITES, the Convention Against International Trade in Endangered Species. That's a list where they regulate the trade in these. It's kind of like pandas and sea turtles and tigers. Nobody knows the name of trees that are endangered, but we did a lot of research. We figured out how to plant these, how to prune them, how to thin them. And now we've got sawmills, kilns, we process those. And we got clients like Martin Guitar that we sell, Miller Knoll, Amgen, Boeing, Four Seasons. Like, we've got nails of clients, and we're a small company. We have less than 200 employees, but we work very hard. We work a lot of overtime. We work every day. Like, I've worked over 6 months without taking a single day off. I remember when I first started working really hard like this when I was an entrepreneur in my 20 years old, one of my roommates asked me, and he said, "How long could you do this?" And I said, "Well, I do it forever. But if I do that, you really don't have a life. If you're working 100 to 120 hours a week and you're not, you don't have time to go out to dinner. You can't go to the movies. You don't really have many relationships and stuff." And when I initially started my painting business, it kind of gave me the bankroll to get set up in Costa Rica. That's how hard I was working. And now I think if I only work like 80, 85 hours a week, that it's kind of easy and I'm taking it. I've learned that I can work from anywhere in the world. And if you give me a computer and internet, I like to claim I'm fully fluent in Spanish, but I have a very bad accent. And if I try and speak slowly and concentrate on it, I can communicate much better. But I understand a lot of what people tell me, and Spanish-speaking ability is very useful and has helped me a lot in my business. Like, we do a lot of sales internationally. We ship to more than 50 different countries.
Yeah, when did you learn Spanish? Like, just because you moved to Costa Rica and then you learned Spanish?
No, I took it in high school, and I took 4 years there. I got straight A's, valedictorian. Like, I'm in this really small fish in a very, very pond in Montana where I was brought up, right close to Yellowstone Park. Beautiful mountains there, and that's where I like to buy properties where there's mountains and mountain view. And then Harvard claims that everybody is bilingual at least, and I can guarantee you that is not the case. I didn't go to the language lab except once. I think I got a B- in Spanish class, and they threw me into the fire in Costa Rica. I remember one time my guys go up the hill. I said, "Whatever you do, don't cut the brush in the drainage areas in the streams at this point, but in the rainy season, almost everywhere in Costa Rica gets some small streams and creeks and stuff flowing." And I went up the hill, and the guys had totally misunderstood me, and they chopped all the brush in the streams and left all the brush where we went to plant the trees in the fields standing. I'm like, no, you do this differently. And it's funny, I've got a friend who's got a very successful business. He built like the Tappan Zee Bridge and the Freedom Tower in New York City. And he taught me just recently, like I think 3 years ago, I got really about people making a mistake. And he said, "Kevin, when I see a problem and something goes wrong, it's because I didn't explain it clearly enough." And so I've tried to learn that lesson. And some people have taught me it's like, okay, if I explain something to you and say there's a language barrier, a different language, then if I ask you to explain it back to me and it comes back clearly and we're on the same page, we're good to go. But if something's missing in translation, like I'll sit there and explain to a guy, like we've got this amazing production guy, an engineer, industrial guy, and I'll talk to him and stuff, and then like 5 minutes later, ask me a question with information that I just told him. Like, wait a second, was I speaking too quickly, or did he just not listen, or what? But a lot of times in business, things are lost in translation, and I've found like the 3 things you need to compete on: great quality, great service, and price. It's a triangle. And those 3 points in the triangle are never going to meet. And I don't compete on price. I think we have the world's best products, wooden products, and I think we have incredible service. And do we make mistakes? Yes. But I've learned that I send you a product that's got a broken leg, or you're not happy with it, it's the wrong height. and then I fix that problem, you're a client for life. And then you tell your neighbors at dinner parties, like the word of mouth. I used to work with the world's biggest painting company. They did a huge amount of research and checked out how people got leads. And in general, you'll tell 7 people if you're happy or unhappy with me. And I like to be on the happy side of the equation there. And there's so many things I've learned that make you successful in business, whether you're a rookie and 24 years old or even 20 or whatever, or whether you're a 58-year-old guy like me. And it's very simple. If I'm smiling when I'm talking to you and I have a positive attitude, even on the phone, without even seeing my face, people can feel that. People can tell that. And people buy from people they like. And I've been gifted with 3 times the energy of everybody else. I never, ever get tired. People like, sometimes they get pissed off at me and stuff like, where's this off switch or whatever? And they'll be like, oh, do you want a coffee? I'm like, no. You don't see me on coffee. I'm naturally caffeinated. Enabled myself to overcome a lot of disabilities I've had physically and mentally and such, like ADD, and I've got scoliosis, like this shoulder's an inch higher than the other one. I've got an extra vertebrae. I had severe back pains when I was 14 where I could barely even walk or breathe. I was in so much pain, but finally found an orthopedic surgeon. They thought I had a tumor in my back. I mean, just all kinds of issues you don't want to deal with when you're a young teenager. I'm more worried about how it doesn't look, and it's not worked too well. But in the end, my mother tells me when I was a kid, people probably saw the Forrest Gump where he was running around in the braces and he kind of taught Elvis how to do the twist or whatever, those things. I had those braces when I was a kid. I went to speech impediment class. I've got this scoliosis and these issues with back pains. If I don't do my exercises regularly, I have a lot of pain. But I've learned that probably the most important thing after respect, I would say, is discipline. And I've learned that I've got this discipline and the ability to do things. And it's just like everybody complains about stuff. And it's like, well, what's the most difficult job you need to do? Do that first. And then when you accomplish that and you've done that, not perfectly, but you fulfilled it or you checked it off or you got paid or you had to deal with a client who was being difficult, then you've got a job that's not quite as difficult. Get that one done. Then the following, I remember one time we were going on vacation, I came home and I said to my wife, oh, I had this really bad problem. It took me like 6 hours to resolve and stuff like that. And she's like, oh man, what a headache. When are you going to do that? I said, no, it's done. I said, I didn't come home until I finished that job. And that's something that I get mad at my kids more than when they were teenagers, not now they're 23 to 28. Like the thing that I'm most proud of in my life are my 4 children. My beautiful wife, I've been married for 34 years. But I used to be really proud of my trees, but I'm more proud of my kids and my family. But I used to get mad at my kids. Like they complain about something for 10 minutes when it takes 2 minutes to take the garbage out. And it's just like, be quiet, get the job done, and like have that to-do list, prioritize it, keep on top of things. And like I've got little tricks I've used in business over the years. Like I used to have a pile for the East Coast. Then I'd go into Central. Then I'd go into Mountain. Then I'd go into California time. So I can call California at 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and it's still not after 5. And I learned when I was working in my painting and construction business, I would call people at 10:30 at night, and they'd be like, what the hell are you calling me? I'm going to bed early. I have to get up at 5 a.m. And I'd be like, wow, I can't do that now. So I would work on accounting, or I'd look at different things like setting up the logistics and supplying things. And over the years, like I've learned from people who have seemed to be very good at business. A lot of times it's kind of smoke and mirrors. Like you drive through a really nice neighborhood a lot of times. A lot of people have debt and they're driving the new cars and they've got a lot of payments and stuff like that. I don't do that. My wife and I are very frugal. We don't wear a lot of expensive jewelry. We don't need the nicest cars and stuff. I really, the value of a person, how you should be judged in life is how many people you've helped. And when I was young, I was the youngest volunteer in the history of Big Brothers and Sisters in Montana. I did that for a few years. And then when I went to college, they had this project, Housing and Neighborhood Development. So I signed up for that. I went in to interview and they said, well, who do you want? I said, well, I've been doing this a long time. Just give me the kid most in need. And this kid that I helped, he had some, I don't use terminology that's no longer politically correct, but this fellow was very limited intellectually. He had some physical disabilities and stuff, but I got him to go to the library, I could get him to do things on the computer. He just loved it. He was just like the most positive person in the world, because even though he had parents present, they didn't pay any attention to him. And I would take him to do things. The first day we ever worked out, did things when I threw a wiffle ball to him and he had a plastic bat. And the whole day for like an hour, he hit it once. And then people would come up to me, like he had brothers and people that he saw in this project North Cambridge. Like everybody thinks Harvard, Cambridge, MIT is where all the super wealthy people live. But there's a lot of poor people there and a lot of people don't have a lot of opportunities. I went there and helped this kid, and I've been doing that now since I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old. And if you apply that in business and you help people and you solve their problems and stuff, like I've had a trick that I've used for getting new clients. You have a big account. Say you're one of the top 100 outdoor furniture companies. You want to buy my Diamond Teak, my Spirit Song line. I can call up a cashier, or I can call up somebody there, a salesperson, and I'll have like a form that I use, almost like a questionnaire. It's like, oh, what are your most popular sets? Oh, we sell a lot of bar tops. We do this and that. Oh, we like big dining tables. We like extension tables. And then when I call the owner and talk to him, I already have inside information on his company. I tell him what I have to sell him, and he's like, wow, we're such a great fit. This is amazing. And that's because I did my due diligence. And it's funny, you can overlook people. Like, I've got a trick I use. I'll call somebody up. Yes, ma'am. What's your name? Oh, yeah, thanks. Oh, Joan, nice to meet you. I appreciate it. Write that down. Talk to her. Be nice, friendly, smile. I like to bake chocolate chip cookies. I bake big batches every week. People can't believe it. I give them these cookies. I send them Costa Rican coffee. I send them a dishwasher-safe cutting board. I do that for customs agents. I do that for people I do business with. I don't care if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or you've got a small mom and pop. If you send people gifts and you remember their names, which I'm bad at sometimes, I'll admit. There's a lot of things I do wrong, but if you look at it by and large, I think I'm a world-class salesperson. But am I the best at organization? And I'm very good with time motion. Like I can see things in physical factories and plants, how to make things so that they're not losing time doing things, or how you can improve a process, or just, I've got a really, one of my is spatial relations with my brain. And so if I only had to work on that in a factory, I could help out a lot, but who's going to do the sales? And so my primary job is working on sales, and we've done well at that, and we sell several $1 million worth of product a year, and we're not the most profitable company in the world. Based in Costa Rica, there's a lot of Social Security, accident insurance. We do 9 paid vacations days a year. Like, something that's very frustrating when you do international business, like when I'm working in the States and it's July 4th and everybody else is enjoying the Independence Day, it's not Independence Day in Costa Rica. That's September 17th. Then if you look at certain holidays like New Year's Day, Christmas, some things do compare, but then if you look at Holy Week like Easter in the States, Costa Rica, sometimes we found it's even better to let people take the whole week off because they're distracted. In the States, it might only be a day or two that's important, depending if you're very religious. But I've been successful over the years based on my respect, my discipline, and the hard work ethic, but there are things that I wish I could have done better and worked smarter, and there's opportunities I could have taken advantage of that I missed.
Tell me a little bit about productivity, because I mean, you are like an animal when it comes to just like getting something done. A lot of times, like even, I'm guilty of this, doing busy work instead of like the actual work of like something that's going to move the needle or something that needs to get done right there. I'm like, okay, let me do some like optimization stuff, or like I'm working in the business, but it's not actually getting stuff done. Tell me a little bit about how you be productive and how you give advice on that.
I had some really good interns over the years. Like I had, my oldest daughter's 28 now. She had a really nice, friendly fellow. He was, his family was Colombian. He had a U.S. passport. He was a really hard worker, spoke Spanish well. This fellow started working with me, and then I've had probably like 12 or 14 interns, some of whom that I've had helping me for years. And these guys have helped me a lot. Like, you get an additional computer screen. I even saw a lady the other day who had 2 of them on her laptop, and I was like, wow, man, that would just make me so much more efficient. A big part of productivity, like if you talk about physical stuff in a factory, like I show up and they're loading a 40-foot trailer, and I see how they can set up a ramp so that they don't lower things to ground level and then raise them up to a flatbed to move it to another facility, whereas you just use a ramp from one to the other and not have to move it twice. Like, I've got some basic rules of thumb. Like, I get really mad at people, and I have a big and very little bite. If you, once you get to me and stuff, Kevin can complain quite a bit, but in the end, I'm going to be the guy after work holding a flashlight to help you work on your car or change a tire. But if you look at the productivity in a physical manifestation, like when we got to figure out how to make a bench faster, there's certain things where it's just like direct flow. Like I get mad, like at a warehouse we had, these guys close a door where I had to walk to the bathroom, and I figured, hey, if that adds 20 seconds 10 times a day, 200 seconds a day times 300 days a year, You're talking real time. It's like I get really frustrated when I see people waiting in lines at airports or like waiting to get through passport control or whatever, rent a car. The other day I was at this really nice resort in Japan where they're really good at doing things correctly. And I saw these doors that were opening the wrong way. So you open the door and then the sauce was here. Or they had things where you had to put a glass in and it wasn't high enough, so you had to turn the glass to get it out. And it's just like you lose a few seconds here, you lose a few seconds there. I went and told these people in this resort in Japan, Niseko at Hilton there, and about 10 minutes later, they were following me around taking videos of me when I was like walking around in this restaurant at this buffet. And if you look at it, like I'll see things where they're like loading sawdust and debris from our sawmills. We have 8 Wood-Mizer sawmills where we break down the logs that then go into our kilns, that then go into our furniture factory a mile away. And these guys will have wheelbarrows where they're raising stuff up and going up a ramp to drop off the garbage. I said, well, why don't you dig a hole and put the axle in the hole and get it down to ground level? And if you just do like weight times height, just basic physics that we do in middle school in the U.S. or wherever, there are things, some are very complicated. Like you can send me some files, DWG or certain things like that. I'll be like, wow, I can't even open that. Send that to my CAD guy. He sent me a SolidWorks, send me this drawing, I'd go through it. We've done quite a bit of business with Sutherland Teak over the years. Amazing company that perennial fabrics, like the founder, David Sutherland's been a mentor to me for many years. I'm helping him now with a project where he's doing custom homes. Those manufactured in Nicaragua, wants to get set up in Panama. And I'm obviously a teak expert because I've planted over 500,000 trees, and we know a lot about pruning, thinning, cloning, spacing, when to thin, how to do it with the cycle of the moon, stuff that you used to think was an old wives' tale. But in fact, you find out from the biggest reforestation in Canada, this company tells me, no, they prune fir trees, cycle of the moon. That makes it so that the pruning's more effective. And so if you look at productivity from metal, say work on a computer or something like that, like I think with the physical stuff, I'm really good at that, and I just see things like I don't suffer fools, and I like to say things once. And if you're going to explain to somebody how to do something faster, quicker, safer, like you come to our factories, everybody's got hearing protection, eye protection, respirators and stuff on. Like I had this Boeing engineer come to my facility in Costa Rica one time, and he's like, wow, Kevin, he said, I can't even believe this. You've got like conduit with like the electrical lines protected. You've got yellow lines where the forklifts are supposed to go through, like there's process and flow. And it's like, yeah, I'm not happy with this. Like that's something I've learned many, many years ago. If you think everything's going great in your business, no way. Something's going wrong. Dig around, find out. And like my brother's really smart. He's been a very successful businessman. He's got a viewpoint. He's like, go up on the hill above your business. Look at it from afar. What's your biggest problem? Like I've asked myself that many 100 years. My brother and I fight like cats and dogs because we're very close in age. And my mother and I used to have our birthdays are 2 days apart. And she used to have one birthday party, so we'd have to share friends. Or I'd be, oh, Arthur, my best friend, can you come to my birthday party? Oh no, your brother already invited me. And I think my mom, she didn't do this on purpose. It was easier for her. But my brother and I've had a lot of friction. He's been very helpful and been an investor in our company and a very sharp fellow. At Harvard, many people told me that he was the smartest person he met there. And on the sly, I have a higher IQ than he does. So 2 + 2 = what? Is that 5?
That's funny. What do they give you an IQ test in Harvard?
I had it when I was, I think, they usually do it, I think, when you're 4 or 5, 6 years old. One of my interns, I hired this guy. He wasn't the hardest worker I've ever met, but he was really good at chess, and he supposedly had 183 IQ, like the highest here in the area where we were. I'm in Bucks County in Pennsylvania, where 1 million people live, and I took a conscious look. If all the smartest kids go to the private schools, then the public schools suffer, I think. And the main thing that I do when I go volunteer in a public school, the first thing I do when I sit down is I sit down, all the minorities, all the different people there. And if I go to a classroom that's lily white, I am not happy. I want my kids to be exposed to different cultures, different people, different backgrounds. And it's funny, when I went to college, I would meet people there like this guy, Danny Coles. His dad, Robert Coles, was a world famous professor. Then his mom, I think, was 13th generation Harvard. Like Danny came from, I think, Exeter. I had one of my roommates at college from St. Paul's. We're walking around Harvard Yard, 1,600 freshmen in our class. And Bill would be like, oh, hi, Vince. Hi, Lance. Hi, Joe. And I'd be like, how the hell do you know all these guys? Oh, there were 17 of us who came here from St. Paul. 17 people came from your high school class to Harvard. How many people graduated? Oh, 120. Oh, that's what I had in my high school class as well. But there was one guy from Montana who came to Harvard. And I've been very fortunate in life. Like I like to tell people, you can't choose your parents and you can't choose the country you're born in. That passport that you've got can be a great gift. Like I've done a lot of traveling around the world. I don't know. I've been in around 70 countries, give or take. I've been in all 50 states. I've driven through the Sahara, bought a Land Rover in England, drove down through Europe. There was no channel back then. We came across, got to see those chalky cliffs, Dover, and then came through and went and stayed with an exchange student in Spain, and then went and drove through Morocco, Algeria, and Niger through the Sahara. And then I've driven to Costa Rica a couple times from the States. I've driven up to Prudhoe Bay, the Arctic, the ice road trucking there and stuff. And if you look at what you learn from the people you're exposed to, like when we were at college, this guy from Morocco said, come visit me. Oh, that's great. But then we're on this boat going to Africa, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing? We're going to be in like this grass hut with a mud floor. This is nuts. What are we doing? Let's turn around. We get over to Morocco. Our friend's waiting for us there. We show up, and who goes to Harvard from Morocco? Are you going to be dirt poor or have some opportunities or have some wealth? And so this guy's dad was like a bureaucrat in the agricultural department. He'd been able to go to the American School at Tangier. He spoke Arabic, French, English, Spanish. Really interesting fellow. And that bug for travel, and then just the fact that my family, like we've had exchange students staying with us from Italy. My wife's done, 15 exchanges at least, taking students from Costa Rica to Alaska in the wintertime, or to North Dakota or to Pennsylvania and vice versa. Had the opportunity to travel a lot and meet a lot of interesting people. And in my business, the fact that I get to travel and export to a lot of places. Like we have clients who have showrooms in England. We have clients who have showrooms in Madrid, in Paris, and we to like Barlow Tyree, the oldest teak furniture company in the world. They're based in Braintree, England, but they manufacture in Indonesia. And then I ship product to China, Vietnam, or raw commodity like teak logs and lumber and stuff for, say, Pakistan. I remember I sent a big load of teak logs there, and it took months to arrive. But if you look at the exposure I had at Harvard from international students, I think there were more than 100 countries represented, how I get to export to 50 different countries, and how I've been really impressed by people that I've met over the last 35 or 40 years. Exchange students, like one of my best friends is this fellow from Austria who went and stayed in Iowa with a good friend of mine. And then I met him, loaned him my car. I just visited him in Ireland. We're going to go to the Czech Republic and visit him. He's been here and stayed at my house. He's done some movies. He's a pretty accomplished fellow in film. And just those connections and that open-mindedness to see the world as your business. Like I'm not limited to just the U.S., the East Coast. There's a lot of people in other countries who have a lot of money. I mean, if you look at clients we have in Singapore, or clients say in Shanghai and stuff, like we have the best Coca-Cola world, and the Chinese really prize that. So that's probably my primary market for Coca-Cola. And I do sell it to people in the States who make bagpipes, or Martin Guitarro makes their guitars, or people who make nunchucks and pool cues and all kinds of things. But in the end, having, I think, an open mind and the experience I've had to travel and contacts I have, that has enabled us to do really well in business. I mean, if anybody was ever a racist in any way, my father would never talk to you. You could be my father's worst enemy, and he would see you in a room, or you would do things. I remember I dated this girl in high school, and I didn't realize at the time, but her dad was an enemy of my father. And we're in a small town in Montana with 10,000 people. You know everybody. Like, you kiss my cousin, I know that a week later, maybe even an hour later. And I've learned from my father that if you respect people, and I may not get along with you politically, or I might not appreciate certain things you do, but I haven't been in your shoes. I haven't had your experiences, so I judge you. And so I like to think of myself as open-minded. I remember one time in college, my wife and I were dated from freshman week. We met before school even started, and we dated for 4 years, and they wrote an article about 3 couples who dated the whole time in college. When they wrote the article and published it, one of the couples broke up. And I remember one time my wife and I were arguing, we were having a fight, and somebody said something about me, and they said, oh, he's a racist. I was like, no, wait a second. I may be pissed off at him, but my boyfriend, Kevin, is not a racist. And now, 34 years later, we're happily married with 4 beautiful kids. And my wife's still a teacher. Like, we went to Costa Rica, began our reforestation business because of my wife. She wanted to sign up for volunteering overseas. We signed up for the World Teach program from Harvard University, where it's kind of like the Peace Corps, but we work a lot harder. And we had to pay $3,500 to be volunteers, whereas the Peace Corps volunteers, they got paid to be volunteers. Not a lot of money, a stipend and such, but it was really cool because we got to go live with a Costa Rican family. They had these 3 beautiful young little girls. Got to see a lot of their lifestyle, and then we ran the housing community. My wife wanted to do a second year, and I said, wow, I'm not very good at teaching. I don't have the patience to be around these young kids. What can I do? And Costa Rica had the highest deforestation rate in the world. I sent you some tables and some graphs that show things like where Costa Rica was in 1950, 60, 70, 80, and it shows it's incredible. Like I have a saying that I use, a country without trees has no future. And you look at Haiti, for example, a country that's totally deforested and the problems they have there. Costa Rica, I think, is one of the few countries, maybe the only one that has turned the corner and made it from being bad about deforesting to being reforesting and protecting a huge amount of their country and national parks and reserves and such. And we started planting trees in '93. We did some programs in Costa Rica where we put together kind of like an AIDS quilt, where we did it with endangered species, and then we did it at a local level in our high school where my wife volunteered, and then we did it at a national level in San Jose in Costa Rica. And we've had a lot of impact on people. Like when I first started working down there in Costa Rica, people would be like, oh, you got to burn your farm, you got to do this, you got to use pesticides, you got to use herbicides. And I'm like, wait a second. That doesn't seem smart. You're using these nasty chemicals and then you're drinking water down below and stuff. And I was so proud after years when I would have employees, like our first employee who planted the first teak tree on property on May 16th, 1993, he still works with us 34 years later. We've got a lot of employees been with us more than 30 years. I'm really proud of that. And we've empowered a lot of women and a lot of people who, single moms and people who don't have a lot of opportunities, a lot of education. Like we have quite a few of our employees are illiterate, and we've done a lot to get them driver's license, how to operate heavy machinery, get them good jobs with benefits and stuff. And do I wish I could pay them more? Yes. Do I wish our business made more money? Yes. But working in Costa Rica, you look at the democracy, you look at the free press, you look at a lot of securities and safeties there, deeded title on properties that are not confiscated by the government and such. And look at our history of when we started in Costa Rica as volunteer English teachers to now, when my wife is still a public high school teacher. She had a big program where she went to the Chinese consulate in New York City. She likes to go to the United Nations each year. She's going there twice now and had these amazing programs with interchanges with the Chinese and the U.S. students. And so I look at the fact that nobody knows the species of trees that are endangered, and our mahogany, our Spanish cedar, and our Cocobolo rosewood are on the endangered list, society's list. Then you look at the Goncalves, the Granadillo, and the Teak. They're all very high value. There's a very supply of it. They're almost running out. Like I use an analogy in my business. We are the only company that has insulin. So if you're diabetic, you have to pay it for us. And so that kind of enables us to have monopoly pricing. I'm not going to do that because we want to look at what it costs. And we don't want to gouge our clients or take advantage of them. I'll to some clients and I'll be like, look, you can either buy Cocobolo rosewood from us now, or you can buy it from us later, but you will buy from us because we're the only company in the world who's planned it on a wide basis, FSC certified sustainable, so we can ship anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world. I've got a container coming in right now that has a bunch of Cocobolo rosewood on it. I've got CITES permits, and without that paperwork, you can't export that wood. It's controlled.
Tell me about, I'm curious about like the business. I want to get into some business because I know you said that you've helped so many people in their businesses and stuff like that. How would you advise on starting a business?
If you look at it, ideally you want to get into your competitors. And I mean, this is kind of tongue in cheek. If you can go work for a business similar to yours and get some information, I'm not saying stealing clients or stealing products, but figure out kind of what your core competency is. My son works for the biggest foam company in the world. They produce 1 million boards of foam a year. They've got quite a bit of amazing things they do, and I think that they make a lot of money. But you've got to kind of look at the resources and the pot of money you have. Like I've worked with some people, venture capitalists and stuff, and they've got a saying, keep some powder dry. And so like some of the people I've helped to start business and stuff, they'll come in and say, well, how much payroll should I have set aside? Or what about a recession or like the Great Recession, like 2006, 7, 8? There were periods there, I think more than half the businesses in the U.S. went under. And so part of how to do it if you're well capitalized. But there's kind of almost like a catch-22. If you have a lot of money and your family's really wealthy, then you really don't have the work ethic, or you're not able to just go out there and grind and do it day after day, months, years, and such. And so I would tell people, in terms of starting a business now, I mean, you got to be really cautious about the technology and stuff. Like, we have a lot of amazing people come by our warehouse almost every day. A lot of truck drivers that I have a personal relationship with. And I think all these guys are going to be out of a job with AI. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a trucker working in the United States in 10 years unless he wants to drive. You got an Elon Musk truck, or you got a Ford F-150, you like to go out and drive for fun or for your personal vehicle. A lot of these people are going to be out of work. I know a really smart guy, one of the smartest people I've ever met, summa cum laude at Harvard, and he's got an amazing business. And he said the other day that if he had to choose a business to be in, he would look at really expensive technology, like really super high-end expensive, and then try and get in that and try and sell it. I'm a sales guy. And so if you look at a growing market or things that are going to increase, that's always something good to get into. Like, I've got a client who I would go visit him. He would give me a bunch of kites. I'd be like, what the heck is this stuff? And he's like, oh, I used to have an amazing kite business, but it's like buggy whips. When cars came out, buggy whips weren't too useful anymore because you didn't use horses. And so if you were going to tell me, I think you got to have a business plan. The hardest thing for you to do as an entrepreneur is criticize yourself, or to look at it and say, look, I'm going to make a lot of stupid mistakes. I'm going to do things that are very expensive and wrong. Or maybe I'm not even in the right market niche. I think you really got to go out and get kicked in the butt. And like, we used to work with a group called SCORE. I think that they're even nationwide. We had this guy, Denny, who helped us. He had like 20 factories all over the world. This guy didn't have to be mentoring anybody, but he did it because he wanted to help us. And I remember this 30-some years later when Denny said, oh, I always need an extra plant manager because somebody's going to get divorced, somebody's going to get sick, somebody's going to have a problem. And so if you can get people, like they call them the gray hairs or the beards, you can get some older people, or maybe people, you can't, men or yes people, or people that are just going to tell you what you want to, that's going to be the kiss of death. And most businesses fail. Like, if you told me I had to go into a restaurant business, I would be like, are you crazy? I know nothing about it, and I know that there's a huge failure rate with those. But I have a friend who's done really well in it. His family's done it for generations. If you had to tell me about, if you said to me, here, I've got this, I want to do an investment, I want a business, I want you to run it. Like, my father-in-law and another relative came to me and they want to invest a bunch of money in construction business. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to take your money. I don't know how to do that. That's not my core competency. If your son, who's a builder, who's very smart and works hard, will come in and run things, I'll get involved. But without him, I'm not going to do it because I don't feel I could. Like, I've turned down investors' money because it doesn't fit or it's wrong. Like, you got to get optimistic. When you're starting out, you got to be really, really to just like, look, you're going to get some brush burns. You're going to get beaten up. You find some people who are going to tell you straight to your face, you're being stupid. You're wrong.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I would like to have more details. Like, if you said, okay, if somebody wanted to tell me they're going to get in the wood and dowel business, I mean, you got to look at pricing, what's happening in China, what's happening in Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, India. Like, I always get mad at my people. I'm like, look, we've got 2/3 of the people working in these countries, these developing countries, that have really low costs. They don't protect their workers. They're hard to compete against, and you don't want to compete on price. Like, that's my personal feeling.
So to kind of like summarize, because I know it's industry specific, but a couple of things to summarize would be find, like your friend would say, find the most newest technology that's expensive, get into that and start selling it. And that's like a really good option path. It's new, it's going to be helpful to people, it's going to be expensive to sell, and everybody's going to be able to get use out of it pretty much. It's newest technology going up. And then kind of what you were saying is like you like sales, and you were saying like high ticket sales as well. That was kind of like your thing. And that's like a good way. It sounds like sales is something that you're very passionate about in any business. I mean, all business comes with sales. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher. I mean, you got to, sell yourself and your ability to educate children. All of it. But yeah, tell me about, we kind of chose sales as like, okay, like that's, a good skill to learn no matter what business you do. Tell me some skills and tactics in the sales industry that would be very helpful for our audience.
If you look at sales, I think that there are some people who are just not good at it. like maybe they're not outgoing. There's some people who have problems with anxiety, or maybe they're even like, I hate to say this, like we've got a lot of problem with young people who really can't get out of their parents' homes, and they're kind of in the basement playing a lot of video game stuff. I think that's a problem that I'm not going to solve today. But if you told me that I had 100 people and I had to train them in sales, there's a few of them that it's just not their cup of tea. It's not going to be good for them. And then if you look at some people who are going to be really good at it, like I was involved in a company that had franchisees. They were the biggest painting company in the world. It's funny. Years after this, I tried to hire some of these people, went back and said, oh, wow, Tony, he was a great salesman. I want to do this. I want to do that. These people are entrepreneurs, and they were already running business. It's like, I'm going to call you up and give you a minor league job, and I want you to work for me. And they're like, no, I want you to work for me. And we met this guy who owned a big ski resort the other day, and Vail was trying to buy him. And he's like, heck with them, we'll buy Vail. And I was like, I like that attitude. But if you look at it, if I had to train people in sales and tell them what to get into, like I think I could make a lot more money if all I did was work in sales and work on commission. But in terms of being bored and motivated, like being passionate about what you do, I think people know, like when I used to work in my first business that I started, I would have people tell me, no matter what you do, you have to work in sales. And it's like, I remember this guy called me one time. I said, howdy, how you doing? And he said, Kevin, never lose that, the fact that you're from Montana. Like I'll meet people and say, howdy, how you doing? They're like, are you from Montana? I'm like, yeah, I'm from Montana. Or just certain things that you do. And I realize I've had a lot of opportunities in life. And if you told me I had to choose an area to work in and it was sales, or maybe I had to train a bunch of salespeople, like I've gone up and trained call centers for people to sell our products. The thing is, if you don't know something, and you're upfront with people about that, and you tell them, look, I don't have the information. Or like a lot of salespeople lie to you. It's like, no, don't do that. Like I hear people in my office will be like, look, if you don't know something, just tell them that, or contact me, or just pass off the caller to me, or send it to me in writing, or whatever. And a lot of salespeople, I think, probably speak too much. It's probably a problem I have. A lot of times when I've already got the deal, and then I continue or whatever. It's like people come by my warehouse and I'll spend some time with them, get to know them, and they become clients for life, or I'll get them to purchase more, or show them products that maybe some of the salespeople don't know as well. But I think if you educate yourself really well, you know more about it than just about anybody. And when you don't know, you're upfront about that. That can help you a lot. Like, credibility is so important. We'll do things like I caught one of the salespeople. He's lying to people. He's getting free samples. Like he was getting these benches shipped to us. I'm like, what the heck is this? And they're like, oh, I told that guy that we would sell those for him. I said, we're not going to sell those for him. Send it back. Or that's dishonest. Like I don't want people to ever lie for me. I don't want people to do something that's dishonest. I think it's like Warren Buffett has that really famous saying. It takes many, many years to get a good reputation. You can lose it in minutes. And we've got that reputation. And it's something that takes a long time. Like the fellow I was talking to yesterday, who I've helped turn from a hobby to now he's quit his day job and he's doing this full time. And I've got another company I work with that does millions a year in the industry. And I've got another fellow that I started with who had half an employee, not even a full-time employee. And now I've seen him buy a showroom, get a house, get into the middle class, upper middle class, and get a lot of opportunities, have some wealth. I've helped these people. Like I tell people, I help make millionaires. And it's not, I wish I could tell you I made $1 million in those or whatever, but a lot of it is the working really hard. A lot of it is what makes you unique, what's different. Like I remember when I was at college, the lady who started the body shop, she had the thing, be unique, be different, be first. And so I've done that with my reforestation. I reforested species that no one else has reforested. We focus on native trees in danger of extinction. So I've been able to do that. But if I want to go out there and be the body shop and say, wow, this lady Anita's got all these shops in malls, high-end malls, I can't beat her. I don't have the money to do that. But what can I do? What products should I come up with? What would be different? And I've got a really good friend at MIT now. Like his father passed away. On his deathbed, he said, look out for my sons, especially the youngest one. And they were little guys then, and now they're bigger. The one's just finishing his PhD at MIT. When he got in there, I said, dude, I want you to find the next Elon Musk. I want you to find the 10 most entrepreneurial people in your class. We'll get some money, we'll invest in these guys, and one or two of them will become a billionaire, we'll make a lot of money. My friend is an academic. He wants to teach. He does research and stuff like that. Absolutely not going to happen. I respect you told me, like Mark Cuban has a very famous saying, how do you make $1 billion in high tech? He says, start with 2 billion. Or like my dad used to joke with people, even though he didn't start the company, he says, oh, here's my son, Kevin. He works really hard at making our company smaller every day. And it's like, I think you got to have a sense if you take yourself too seriously, if you think you're better than other people, I have people start doing certain things or they'll be like racist. I'll be like, well, that's kind of funny. A really good friend of mine at Harvard was this black guy. I'm still in touch with him, and he was a lot smarter than you are. Or people will do things, they'll be like, look, last time I checked, I have a Harvard degree, and that doesn't give me power to look down on anybody or to be rude or obnoxious. In fact, I've learned that I respect people. Like all people who are arguing, and I have a saying, big dogs fight. You're a Doberman, I'm a German Shepherd. We're gonna put up our hackles and our pairs got a bristle on our back. We're going to growl and do that. Big dogs are going to fight. But I remember one time I was working with one of my partners, Brakeman Associates. They're the oldest reforestation company in Canada. They plant like 1.6 billion trees. They've been around, I think, just about as long as I've been alive. I started working with these people when I was in my 20s. Now they're all retired and they're in their 80s. And I'm 58, so it's kind of almost like a generation has passed. And I remember 3 different times I went over the head of their employee and worked with them for more than a decade. And I won every time. This guy was from Argentina. He spoke Spanish well. He had a lot of experience from reforestation, more than I did. But every time I felt like he was doing something dumb or wrong, and I was better or more important or smarter. And after I won these arguments 3 different times, Dirk Brinkman, the founder of the company, he took me aside and he said, Kevin, I'm going to teach you a lesson. If you don't learn from him, if you don't keep an open mind and you just get on your high horse and say, I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm going to win all these fights, or I can physically hold it, I'm stronger, I got everything going on this guy. That's just stupid. I'm the one who's... If I don't view those people as somebody who can teach me an important lesson, like I remember in Costa Rica, when I first went there, I thought illiterate people were stupid. I was wrong. I have illiterate employees, they're just amazing, the memories they have and things. They would invent things, and I'd be like, what the hell? Why didn't I think of that? And these guys have ways of doing things. Just think of the memory you have to have when you drive around. Like I had somebody go out and he would look at a couple hundred trees to purchase. And what takes him 2 hours to do, you or I could do in 2 minutes. Just about writing down like a couple hundred letters or numbers, putting in an Excel spreadsheet and processing that data. But if I look at having a sense of humility, like I used to tell people, I put my Harvard degree in my back pocket. I would go to you, an illiterate farmer, I would say, how do you prune this? How do you thin this? How should I plant this? What do you think about the menguante, the cycle of the moon, and this and that? And all the farmers are like, oh, hell yeah, that's when you want to plant or cut the trees and stuff. And I've had employees tell me, damn it, I'm so mad at these guys. They cut this tree in the wrong cycle of the moon. It's getting attacked by insects. Termites are getting into it. And if you cut it with the correct cycle of the moon, it doesn't. And is this 100% scientific? Do I read National Geographic every month? Do I see new advancements in knowledge and technology they have about trees and plants? Yes, but a lot of times, if you ask the old people, you shut up and you listen to the advice and the experiences they have. That helps a lot. I don't care if you're starting a frozen yogurt business, like what we started franchising, like we tried to set up like Ben and Jerry's, was a failure. And I learned very different lessons from that business has failed compared to my really successful painting and construction business, where I made more money than a young person should have, that I used to kind of kickstart the business in Costa Rica, the reforestation and the wood manufacturing business. But it's difficult. Like I can look at specific instances where I help people with their businesses and stuff. And if you contact me, like I help a lot of people, I write recommendations for them and try and give them good advice for applying to university, graduate schools and stuff. And you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes, look at their resume, look at their point of view. Like I have some friends and people I know that have a lot of learning disabilities or problems, like they're having difficulty getting jobs. And I just look at it and it's like, wow, I think I could get 100 jobs in a week just by going out and making phone calls and taking advantage of connections and being persistent and disciplined about it. But it's difficult. When you're really young in business, it's very hard to get a reputation. You have no reputation. And so you want to make certain it's a good one. So I remember when I first started, I got the first 7 people I did business with to write me recommendations. And then I did this Tedeschi. It's like a big company. I think they have supermarkets and liquor stores up in Massachusetts. I went and did an estimate on this guy's house. I come in, he's like, you got the job. And I'm like, what? He said, he says, I can't believe you had a recommendation from this lady. She's not the nicest person in the world. I just called her. She said it was accurate and true. You've got the job. He didn't even care what it cost because he had checked my recommendations and that I did good work, kept my word. And it's a lot of things in business I think people make too hard. If you can keep it simple and you keep your word and you kind of, well, I get to you for 8 weeks and you'd been 7. Or like I had a client who bought a custom teak countertop the other day, and he called me, what's going on? I said, oh, that already shipped. It went out on Friday. He's like, wow, Shazam, I can't even believe that. And it's like, well, things like that are what get you clients. And I've got a lady who's bought more than 100 pieces of custom stuff for boats. She's got a business. Like a lot of people we supply, they'll get businesses set up on Amazon or Etsy or eBay or whatever, or maybe they're bricks and mortar, which is less common nowadays. But they'll call me up and they'll be like, hey, what about this? I'll be like, okay, good, we got in production. We'll do some laser engraving of a compass. We'll put your name on it, a custom finish, all this stuff that goes into boats or nice yachts and such. And then call me and says, well, where's my product? I say, well, ma'am, we usually have a 3-month lead time, up to 5 months if custom, because of the custom finish, the paint or whatever. Like you're going to put a finish line, it could take many coats to do it, and then you got to let it dry, package it. We ship from Costa Rica to the U.S., here in California. Things add up. Port strikes or government shutdowns and things. And this lady, I'll say, ma'am, we usually take 5 months to get custom products out. You've been getting yours within a month. We can't do much better than that. Like I get really mad at people, and I'll be like, look, my crystal ball has never worked. And it took you 7 months to pay me a deposit. So how about this? I'm going to deliver your product in 6 months and 29 days. And then they get mad at me. Oh, no, I don't want to wait 6 months for a product to be delivered. I'm like, look, bad things like cars and heart attacks happen fast. Good things take time. We're going to make you a beautiful custom piece, a countertop, a kitchen island, a bench that fits in just that right little nook, or that little shoe thing that you want in your closet that just... You knew the space was there, but you couldn't fit the shoes in that you wanted. Now I've made it for you. And then you call me up and say, hey, that's the most amazing piece of furniture in my house. I take people to my closet and show them what I made. So I have a bone in my body that makes me help people. Like if I see you on the side of the road and you're broken down, I stop and help you. That's why I got involved in Big Brothers and Sisters. Something that's been in my family for generations. And it's something that I've inculcated in my children as well. Like, one of my daughters was dating a fellow, and she got kind of upset with him. Man said, you're not volunteering enough. You're not helping people. People have certain personalities and stuff. Like my brother likes to say that by the time you're like 30 years old or so, you've got that face. Do you smile a lot? Do you have dimples? I don't care about any wrinkles or lines or anything like that. I call them smile lines. But there's certain things, brain chemistry. There are people who are just negative. Like one of my best employees, this guy's amazing. He's working with me more than 20 years. He's religious, youth minister. He's a family man. He supports like 10 people down in El Salvador. He's like immigrants that have just made the world a better place. They work so hard, and they've got this dream of how they can get an education and get into the middle class in the States. This guy, he's just got a glass is half empty. He's just got brain chemistry where it's negative, and like we have a joke about him. Like he'll start complaining or get upset and something like that. It's like he's just doing his thing. Let him be a little bitter. In half an hour, he'll get out of that funk or that negativity. And that's something that I've been blessed with. Just like I never get depressed, never get down. I never get tired. Like I tell people, I've never met anybody in my life with as much energy as I do. I'm kind of looking forward to it falling off and diminishing. They claim your metabolism falls like 1% every year. I'm really waiting for mine to cut back.
That's funny. That's funny. Give me a shotgun of all the businesses that you've done, real quick.
Probably 12. Like to deliver some newspapers. Then we were painting some houses and stuff like that when I was at 14. I washing dishes and stuff like that. Obviously, I didn't know these. My brother had the paper out, and I was just his little brother who helped him out with it. But when I was 20, I started a business in construction and painting. It went really well. I did that for a couple of years, and I realized I wasn't going to learn anything new with it, that it wasn't challenging, so I quit doing it. Like if you said, okay, there's $5 million, like I had $1 million business before by the time I was 29 years old. I had people investing in it at that basis. And when I started the reforestation business when I was 24 in 1992, and we got into mills, primary processing, kiln drying, furniture factories, I almost wish I hadn't done that and just would have planted more trees and owned more land, because I think real estate, is one of the things that makes more people wealthy than anything else. And we've got some nice properties that we own with nice, beautiful rivers on them, clean rivers and mountains. We've got endangered species on these properties, jaguars, pumas, scarlet macaws, like squirrel monkeys that they're almost extinct everywhere in the world, but they've come back on these old cattle farms we reforested. We've done some things where we'll see areas where there will be people putting in a truck stop or like 7-Eleven or a mini mart, and then be like, wow, why isn't that on this corner? And then I would see that somebody bought that corner and they developed it and stuff. So we've purchased some property like that, but it's more of a passive investment. If you look at businesses I started around, I would just say primarily construction and painting, the frozen yogurt business that crashed and burned, and then the reforestation and the manufacturing business that we've been doing since 1992. I've helped a lot of people. Like people call me up and ask for advice and stuff like that, but I am not in a position to work full time with people or even dedicate much time to someone else. It's like if you came to me and said, look, Kevin, I need some help, I'm the first guy who's going to help you. But at a certain point, hey, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., I got to focus on my business or certain things. And one of my problems I probably have is I help people too much. Like I'm not a transactional type of guy. What am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get a return? I do it because it's the right thing, because I like to help people.
I love that. I love that. Tell me, with all these different businesses you've done and different stuff like that, I'm curious for maybe touchy, controversial stuff. What are your political views? I'm curious.
I tell people I like green money, and I hate all politicians. And so my wife was on the school board. She was the school board. She would come home and she would read the whole budget, and then she would ask questions and be like, "You read that stuff?" And my wife was fiscally conservative, Republican. But then if you look at some of the issues with special education or things that you need to do that are more democratic. And this guy, Don Thompson, who was a president of the International Tropical Timber Organization, he owned Thompson Mahogany in Philadelphia. I think they were founded in like 1830. One time I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, some people cannot help themselves. I was like, what? What's this have to do? And then he went off, and he's a Canadian guy, and I think he was winger or Democratic and stuff like that. But I really don't try and bring politics into business. Like I have some friends who are major league MAGA Republicans. I'll go out to eat dinner with them and stuff, and they can say anything they want, whatever. That's great. Oh, I see your point of view, this and that. I can have friends who are working for USAID or left wingers or whatever, and be like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I see your point of view and stuff. And that has no place in my business. I don't discriminate against people regardless of your political view. So you can try and pull me out on that one, but I'm not going to bite.
I'm just curious with all your difference and stuff like that, kind of like what are your views on life and, are you, capitalism, I'm assuming?
Get it. You need to have some guardrails. And I mean, a friend of mine one time, he called me up. I asked him about the July 4th parade. We were in Duxbury, Mass, Plymouth down there. He had his family lived down there and stuff. And I said, hey, Jeff, how did you do? How did you like the 4th of July? It was one of the few days when I'd taken some time off and couldn't work because there was a moving through town. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, well, it was really nice, but I felt like I was in South Africa, like an Afrikaner, because there were no minorities there. And if you look at it, I think that the best thing about the United States of America, being a polyglot and speaking a lot of languages like my wife or me, just speaking a couple, English well and Spanish more or less, if you look at the people you come into contact with, and like there are people who like to say, oh, look at this. They're like, oh, this group stinks, or they're lazy, or they don't work hard, or they're dishonest. You think they're going to say blacks because they're black. They say, oh, no, that was the Irish. Oh, no, but wait, those were the Germans and stuff. If you look at it, we're all immigrants. Like I like to tell people, my family came over on the Mayflower, but we were on the second stop, the prison. If you look at Australia is an amazing place. I would go there and retire, and it was a penal colony. They sent the prisoners there. So if you look at it and saying, out pretty well with starting with prisoner stock, I think that people need to chill out a little bit, get along with your neighbor. And I read about Jimmy Buffett starting these big developments. And if you put out like a MAGA flag or Democratic flag or this or that, they boo and hiss you out of the community. We're here to have fun. We're retired. Let's go to a dance. Let's sing some music. Let's have a barbecue. Leave your politics at home. Or if you're going to bring it up, ask some questions. Like I found that in business. Like I go to an employee and say, I'm the owner. Do it this way. I'm hard-headed and stupid and stubborn. Duh, I'm losing. Where if I go there and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think's a good solution? Or do you have any ideas? And if they make something you can propose, if you can get your employees, the people you work with, like I tell people, I had a business, I had 42 people working with me before I got out of college. Not for me, with me. And I'm not saying I have to do the lowest job on the totem pole, or I want to be scrubbing toilets or sweeping floors. But when I see somebody doing something dangerous, I immediately go and stop them. I'm like, look, you're a good-looking guy. Your eyes are beautiful. But if you lose one of those, I have some friends and some people work with me. They didn't have their injuries working with me, but they only have one eye. And like we've had some accidents, like thank God we've never had anybody killed in our business. My Canadian partners have had a number of people killed in Costa Rica as well as in Canada. And my dad used to say, man, you're responsible for somebody's death. Your life has changed as well. You'll never forget that. And I think just going back to that basic respect. Like if I see people are arguing and they're doing things, they're not getting along, we call it telenovela, like a soap opera in Spanish, or like a joker to me. Like I'm going to just do these stupid things that are a misdirection. They're not like, you know what, I like to joke around a lot, but I can't do that with employees. Or if I do certain things, like if I'm working with a lady and it's like, look, leave the doors of the office open. Or it's like, I can make an off-color joke, or I could talk about something about racism or sexism or something like that. I can't do that. I'm the face of the company. I need to always, like, I forget who said this. I think this is even my own saying. If you get off of the pedestal and you get down in the mud and you roll around and you get dirty, when you go back to that pedestal, you may not be able to reach it. Don't ever get off the pedestal. Do the right thing. Be honest, be upfront, realize that your human frailties and what little you do know, and then in the end, if you've had a lot of opportunities and benefits being born in the U.S. or having the ability to get a good education or having some family wealth or some family things, and wealth can be just health, the most important of all, or it can be a huge amount of money. Like we do business with the richest people in the world. I have their employees tell me we could take truckloads of money and fill stadiums with it. It's like I have people tell me, oh, my grandfather invested in IBM when it first started. His kids, nor my kids ever have to work. My brother's done really well in business and made quite a bit of money. I tell him, don't give any money to my kids. The worst thing I think you can do is let your children know that they're going to get a pool of money, they're going to get a trust fund, they're going to get a huge inheritance. No way. I told my parents, who are not really wealthy, I said, look, I didn't even know my dad was an atheist until I got to college. I had an appointment at West Point from a U.S. Senator. I went there, I interviewed people, I talked to all the cadets, I saw they were Hayes, I talked to the professors, and I said, man, I could graduate top in my class here, 1, 2, or 3. But do I want to learn military history? Do I want to be exposed to this? I'll come out, be a second lieutenant. You know what? I might have been really good at killing people. I think I would have been really good in the military. Like I like to play basketball, tennis, pickleball, ski. I'm athletic. I lift weights. I stretch out. I'm in really, really good shape for a 58-year-old. But I think it would have been better to use my skills to do. I'm a pacifist. I don't think that the U.S. military should be anywhere in the world. I think that we're wasting a lot of money on military armaments. I'd rather see it invested in schools, invested in research and development, invested in research, things like that. Like, you got to have a big stick and you got to have a military. I'm living in a bubble if I think we don't need that. Still, I don't know. I think we've got to. Here in the States now, we're getting just totally out of control. Like your neighbor, it's like, oh, I disagree with you politically, but hey, let's go have a beer. Let's watch a football game, or let's just spend some time together and see how similar we are, regardless of our backgrounds.
Yeah, I drive like a Tesla. I get so many people flicking me off and cussing at me and stuff.
And they judge you.
I'm like, why are you, like, you're really gonna like ruin your own day, like getting mad and stuff like that because of a car or somebody else? It doesn't matter. Like, you didn't even ask me what I think about it or what I believe. I just like the self-driving. It's so nice. You just click.
They're judging you, and they're not in a position to judge you. Like, there's something. I'm not a big fan of organized religion. Like I told you, my dad was an atheist, and he didn't tell me that. He didn't teach me. He didn't say, I want you to think this way. He figured out things on my own. There was a pope who came out, I don't know, 2 or 3 popes ago. I'm not Catholic, but he said, who am I to judge? I think there were some people who were like being rude and obnoxious about gay people. And he said, who am I to judge? And I got so much more respect for him then. Like, I don't respect religion, formal religion. I think that the money could be better used for things directly. And there are a lot of very religious people who do a lot of good things. And there are a lot of religious people who are hypocrites and do a lot of bad things. But I would be in no position. Like, I find that sometimes, like, you see somebody, it's like, oh, well, he's doing that. But how do I know that you didn't inherit that car? How do I know that you didn't buy that car because we judged this kid at college and we thought he was a preppy. And we were rude to him. I wasn't as much, but my roommate was. And then we found out that his dad had died in a car accident. He'd gotten some money, and his mom sent him to I'm not even going to name the prep school. There's Andover, Exeter, St. Paul's, and Concord, Harvard School out there in California, all these. But it turns out he shows up at private school dressed like a preppy, like the J. Crew, and no one else at the prep school was dressing that way. They were all Rastafarians and goth, or like just wearing worn out clothes and stuff. So he stood out because his mom thought she was helping him out and getting him a leg up in life because his dad had passed away and they got an insurance and settlement. And then my roommate and I had judged him based on where he gone to private school. And in fact, I became a better friend with him after we weren't roommates, when I realized that I was the idiot and the stupid one. Like, my best friend in high school used to do that. He used to criticize everybody. At a certain point, I said, I don't want to be friends with this guy. It's just, if you need to cut people down to make yourself better and bigger, you've got some serious issues and you should look inside.
I want to talk about religion, okay, because I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, and I'm very passionate. One of the other conversations that I have a lot on another podcast is apologetics and theology. I love having those questions. But yeah, curious on kind of where you land on that.
My wife's very religious. My sister-in-law works at the church. My mother-in-law did quite a bit there. And my father-in-law was a benefactor. He's like number 2 or number 3 at this huge church where we got married down in Huntington Valley, Glory Day Church in Pennsylvania, where we live closer now. One of my friends used to live there. He thought he lived in Gloria Day because this church was so big and so powerful, and they had so many like retirement facilities and things like that. And when I was young, my grandfather passed away, and there was like a schism in the church. And my grandfather had been married a second time. I didn't really know. Like, he was an older guy. I probably met him. My first memory of him might have been when I was 80. When he passed away, people were like, oh, we're not going to take your... we're not going to have a funeral at that Methodist church here. It was called Holbrook, where my mom was a Sunday school teacher. I went to Sunday school there and Sunday service and stuff. And it was just like, I'm like, wait a second. These people, this is like the dumbest thing you ever heard. They said that they were leaving the church and taking God with them. And it's just like, here's this little kid. Like, I might have been 8 or 9. I've had some experiences like that. And it's like, we get in a lot of debates about this. Like, my best friend from college, he studied comparative religion. And like, I look at Buddhism and Hinduism and all these different faiths that I know nothing about, not even the history. And I'm from a Christian background. Like, my wife prayed at dinner last night, and she would like to go to church a lot more. We live kind of far away from where she was brought up and stuff, but Easter and Christmas and stuff. And we've got 4 ministers in the family. So you could say we got those bases covered pretty well. But I personally think that it's internal, and the things that you believe, like whether you say it's Jesus Christ or whether you say somebody else like a saint or a priest or someone inspires you, I think that those things come from inside. And for me, it's very personal. Like, I'm not a formal... I don't think you need to go to church every Sunday to be a religious person or to have beliefs that... I've seen people have big debates about me, and they'll be like, look, Kevin may not go out there and get a bunch of his employees. Like in Costa Rica, Catholicism is taught in the public schools. That's required. So if you're not a Catholic, you're an outsider, an outlier. They ostracize you some. And now they have some evangelicals and stuff like that are getting quite a bit. So you see some stuff in Costa Rica, they're out and about with their missions and stuff they do. And I appreciate that, and I respect it other people, and I will speak highly of it. But in my position, I try not to tell people what to do or think. Like, I will not tell my employees that they should go to a Sunday school or a certain church or things like that. And with me, I've had these debates. Like, a really good friend of mine is this world famous artist, very sharp guy, and he got in a big debate with my general administrator, who was a super religious guy. And I think my administrator wanted me to go to church every day like he did, and he was disappointed that I did. And my friend made him see that I'm probably the most religious person he's ever met because of my beliefs and how I help people and what I do. Like, I would go on a Saturday, and there would be somebody who'd been injured or somebody who didn't have money or whatever, and I would give them all the money in my wallet and go hungry until I could go to the bank on Monday to help them. And there's a lot of things, like my brother has some very wealthy and powerful partners and clients and stuff, and they'll come by and they'll give me something, and then I will pass along. I'll give that gift away and say, oh, those really beautiful things. I gave that to someone. My brother would be like, what the hell? Do you know how much those cost? And it's like, I don't care what they cost. I thought it was nice. A lot of times I give a lot of stuff away, and people are always like, what do I owe you, or this and that. It's like, no. I tell people this. You can regift it. You can sell it. You can burn it. You can throw it away. No strings attached. You need to come to your house and see that. And so, yeah.
What do you think about, do you believe in like the afterlife, heaven and hell? Do you think there's just nothingness?
Like, I saw B.F. Skinner speak one time at Harvard. A lot of this stuff is I'm parroting back to you because I don't have it figured out. But I saw him speak at Harvard one time, and he said, look, if I come in this room and I drink out of this glass of water, or I see that there's an earthquake and the floor's been damaged and stuff, I'm afraid to come back in this building and stuff. And I don't know. It's like I haven't figured that one out yet. Like,
Yeah.
I
Do
know
you
a lot
think
of people
that?
do. I don't believe in hell. Like, I don't think if you're a bad person or that if I castigate you or I did, like if you're a bank robber or you're something like that, I think that people can be redeemed. I would say I'm a New Testament type of guy, not an Old Testament as much. I'm not an eye for an eye guy. I'm the type of person I think someone deserves a second chance.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we're getting off topic, but I think this is very important when it just comes to like your thoughts and stuff like that in business and everything. But do you think that when it comes to eternal existence, if this is truly just kind of like a blip on the radar of eternity, or if there's nothingness after this, we're only here for 100 years somebody's blessed with, and then it's just nothingness. But do you think that eternity is like super super big deal, and it's one of those things that just like anything else should really really understand and know and have a decision whether stuff is stupid or oh dang this stuff is really real, and there's consequences, there's rules, there's physics of the universe kind of a thing.
I think that the magic of religion is that belief, and that it enables people. Like, if I were to say, look, I'm just going to be like Judeo-Christian. I'm from Montana, where my favorite teacher was a Jewish, and my best friend was Jewish, and they're like, we don't have a synagogue for 100 miles. And it's like, I call Montana, where I was brought up, the Mississippi of the West, because it's a very poor state with very few opportunities. It's changed a lot since COVID with Big Sky and Bozeman, the developments there, and the incredible wealth that's pouring in there. But religion as the magic of it, or what makes it so unique and different for each person, is almost like how your mind works, your brain chemistry is how you can believe certain things. And I mean, I people who like tell me that if I don't believe what they believe, that I'm going to be damnation, I'm going to go to hell. I have a really good friend or roommate. He was talking about the world, and I've seen this happen more than once. In fact, my parents had an end of the world party where they got on CNN because it didn't happen out in Montana, where we were by the Church Universal and Triumphant. There was, I would say, almost like a cult out there, and I had friends who invested or got involved there. People who worked on the construction there and stuff. But I think that the thing with religion, like I love to read National Geographic. It's my favorite magazine. I read The Economist. Like I like to read, like I get in some I'll read some wing stuff, some left wing stuff, some objective stuff, and try and get different sources for my news. Whereas I think a lot of people nowadays, they just get into that rabbit hole and go down with QAnon, or just one person gets hold of their ear and then they tell them you got to think my way. And that's not, you got to think for yourself. And I think with religion, the magic of it is that each person can get what they want out of and their beliefs. Like if you believe that now we're just suffering, and in your next life is going to be eternal and you're going to be great. Like I have some jokes I say to people, and I can almost be sacrilegious, and I don't want to offend people, because that I think is easy to do, like with people. But I'll say, look, when I get to the pearly gates, I think they're going to open. I think that I've done a lot of good things in my life, and I've helped a lot of people, and hopefully I can get other people to do their things. But I don't tell them they have to do that because they're Christians. Like I will not judge somebody and tell them, if you're not a Christian, or say you're not a Methodist, or like if you don't believe in what I do, that I'm better than you. And it's like you look at the power of the Catholic Church, and you look at how many different religions there are in the world. To tell you the truth, I have more questions than answers on that count. And I've read quite a bit and traveled a lot.
Yeah, and religion is a strong word, especially in the U.S. There's so many bad people in good places. But I mean, if you believe in God, then the Bible talks about the devil and stuff like that. You don't think the devil would be smart enough to put bad people in good places, to make other religions sound so close to the truth that to lead people astray. Like if that was true, then there would be mass trickery. You know what I'm saying? Mass trickery and stuff like that. But when it comes to like two things that contradict each other, both can't be right at the same time. So there's not no God and a God. There's not eternity and no eternity. It's one of those two. Which one's more realistic? Which one makes more sense?
I think it's what you believe, and I think our brains enable that to happen. Albert Einstein was very religious, and he used to say, I leave my PhD, my scientific learning at the door and go into church.
So when it comes to like the I think, then that would be, do you think like it's a subjective thing, or you think it's objective? Then if I think
it's more subjective.
So then morality, do you think is morality subjective or objective?
I would insist that it's objective. Like I can never know your brain and what works. There was this guy, Graham, I think was his name. He was
So real quick, just for that rose trail, where do you think the objective morality comes from?
I think from history and from lessons we've read in books and such, where you can determine, I mean, is it good or bad to steal or to rob a bank or to murder someone or something like that? And there was, I came up with this on my own. Some of the things, the miracles that they have in the Bible, I wanted to have a book that got those things out of it that make a lot of people skeptical, and just use all the really good scripture and the stories and the lessons to teach lessons to people, like to use it with kids and stuff. I didn't have to do that. Thomas Jefferson already has that Bible. Have you read it?
I don't know about what you're talking about, I guess.
Thomas Jefferson narrowed, like he slimmed down the Bible and took out the miracles and just put in the really important moralistic stuff and things. And so I was going to write that book, and then I realized that he did it, so I just bought his and read it.
Yeah.
I'll send you a copy.
Well, I guess that's, so then, yeah, the miracle stuff is fine, but I guess ultimately it's a salvation thing, and the reason I like talking about it is I do believe, Romans 3:23, the wages is death. Romans is a free gift from God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. And there's reasons like, first off, I think my whole theology is surrounded by the overwhelming evidence that there was a man named Jesus. He did things that could be considered miracles, whether, however he did them, he did things that were considered miracles, whether it's however, he got crucified on a cross by the Romans. We have like facts of all these things because the Romans took records of the prisoners and whatnot. He was called King of the Jews, and that he claimed to be God. Whether or not in the actual Bible, he never said, I am, but I love talking about where his deity is, in the New Testament and stuff like that, and how he claims that. But then he rose like 3 days later. And so like my whole faith, like I wasn't always a Christian. My whole faith is surrounded by the amount of evidence and truth that there's like something going here. And if somebody raised from the dead, I probably should at least look into it and see what this guy has to say, right? And so a lot of like my theology and stuff like that of, okay, because I believe this, I'm kind of believing the rest of the Bible, because there's a lot of stuff like, how can I prove a lot of the stuff in the Old Testament? The Old Testament's actually interesting because there's a lot of stuff that we can, like historical stuff that we can find in ancient Israel and different stories from the Bible that are really cool. But yeah, I would say my main thing is coming from the evidence of the resurrection of Jesus. I think is more. It takes more faith to be an atheist, I feel like, in that with that evidence than it does, because ultimately I think it comes to faith. Like you have to have a little bit of faith, the other. But I just think stuff like this is just so important because, we are talking about eternity, the rest of our lives kind of thing, and it is a big deal. And yeah, there's a lot more questions and stuff, and it's more than like a 5-minute conversation. But
I have a friend, he all of his imagination, and when we die, we all disappear. That's what he always tells us.
Yeah, he's the center of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, back to maybe some business stuff, and we'll close here. I want to hear what is some of your best advice ever that you could possibly give?
If you try and lower your costs, like one of the first things when I started my business was like I would contact people and say, I want to be a wholesaler, I want to be a distributor. Could I be your representative in Costa Rica? And Woodmiser was not really happy with what they had down there back then. This is 30 years ago. Like, oh, Kevin, we'd like you to do this for us. But I'm like, look, I can't do that. I don't have the time. I'm dedicated to my own business. But if I can get a discount, like you can get, like I buy West System epoxy a lot, for example. And I get better prices than anybody else can. And then there's certain things that I do. And sometimes they'll cut me off. Like for Bosch, I got set up as a distributor and I didn't buy enough of their products. So that went to the wayside. But there's a lot of things you can do where I like to tell my employees, if you don't ask for a discount, you're not going to get one. And if you look at different things, like gentleman yesterday who's decided to work full time with a business, I help him get set up. He's buying a lot of teak from me, making teak products. I told him, I said, look, I go to a lot of auctions. I look for discounts and stuff. Like I remember when I bought some really expensive Italian machinery, this guy's like, I can get that for you direct, get it from the factory. I'm like, what? And so he got it half price. He saved me $25,000, and this was like 30 years ago, real money. My dad used to say back when a dollar is worth a dollar. And I learned that way that you can, I'm a middleman in a lot of things I do, but if you can cut out that middleman, or if you can work directly with a factory, get those discounts. And like the other day at an auction, I bought $100 worth of cardboard. It was like 16 truckloads. And so like I can look at the line and say, I've gotten $100,000 worth of cardboard pretty much for free. And nothing's free. You got to pick it up. You got to move it. Like I remember I bought a bunch of stuff in Missouri at an auction. Guys went out there and picked it up, and there wasn't enough room in the truck. And I was like, wow, we're not going back to Missouri. We're going to have to leave some of that stuff behind. But if you look at, you got to be creative in this stuff. And it's like, do you really need that new truck? Like my guys will drive something new and it gets a scratch on the side or something happens, a deer jumps out in front of it and then there's got some damage or a dent. A lot of times you can buy stuff that's used, or like I've gone to hundreds and hundreds of auctions and got stuff inexpensively there. And you kind of have to like look at the big picture. What do you spend the most on? If you've got a trucking company and maybe you can get something set up where you save 10% of your fuel, or like you get a discounted insurance or like that. And you got to be competitive. Like we do a lot of trucking. We own our own trucks, but then we also have brokers that we work with. And I found that pretty much every few months I need to work those guys over. Like one of them that used to be the best is no longer competitive. Or like I remember this company, I found them through Gardner Supply. Like we supplied a lot of products for them. I did some private lines of furniture with them. They set me up with this software. It's amazing, but then it didn't change. And 5 years later, I would call them up and be like, look, your software is archaic. It doesn't work. Why don't you guys repair this? Oh, we're working on that. We're working on that. You know where Gardner Supply is now? They went bankrupt. And so it's like, if you don't want to become a dinosaur, if you don't want to become extinct, you got to take a hard look at the things that you do poorly, things that you're wasting time and money on and stuff. And I think that I've been very successful doing that. Like I've done really well. Like I'm great at buying smaller vehicles, done poorly at larger vehicles. I've done amazingly with buying machinery and stuff. Like, I remember once in an auction, I didn't get a forklift I wanted, and I tried to buy, this is like at the height of COVID and the problem then, this stuff was going for 10 times what it should have cost. And so I was patient. I got a decent one. Yesterday, I bought a forklift for $1,150. I bought one 3 weeks ago for $4,000. And if I look at what those cost in Costa Rica, it might be 10 or 12 grand for the cheaper one and 25,000. So you got to be careful. You got to know what you don't know. When I first started doing this, I found this guy, John Bridges from England. I met him at this trade show, and these guys told me that guy, when he showed up at our Teak factory, we started making money. So I talked to him. He spoke fluent Spanish. He showed up in Costa Rica. We called him Juan Bridges, John Puentes. Juan Puentes is John Bridges. He was probably 75 years old when he started working with me. He'd worked in Venezuela, helped a tea company down there. I took him to some auctions and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, look at this. This is great. He's like, don't buy that. I said, why? It's so cheap. It looks like a great machine. He says, Kevin, you cannot keep that machine calibrated. It's spinning at like 10,000 RPMs. You need an RPM. And so I bought a different molder. I got a forklift, which I think we still have 20 years later. And John Bridges helped me a lot. Then when he came to Costa Rica, we're in the office, and my general administrator asked him some questions about kilns. I'm like, no, shut up. He's not here to do that. And he said, Kevin, he says, I in fact speak better Spanish than you do, and I know a lot about kilns. I was like, whoop, shut my big mouth, go work on sales, and let that guy help people with his core competency. And so if you're great at sales like me, but not so good at buying vehicles, get a good mechanic. Like I've got a partner, like this guy is an older guy who used to do a lot of work on his own vehicles and stuff like that. He can go start a motor, see the color of the exhaust, check things out, do a compression test and say, Kevin, this is a good truck. And then like I'll go up, I'll buy a winch right by the Canadian border. I'll be like, look, I don't like to take a trip without filling the truck or taking advantage of traveling to an area. Like I'm the first guy, like I'm going to New York City to a dinner party. If I can go drop off a delivery that's $1,000 on the way there and go out of my way 15 minutes, would you work for $4,000 an hour? I do. So I go up there to Canada. I get a nice skid steer. I get a winch. I bring it down. There are a couple of issues. The guy gave me a refund. That skid steer's still working. Taking advantage, trying to, like my roommate in college one time, he was complaining, oh, my girlfriend wants me to teach her how to drive. I'm like, well, isn't she 21 years old? Can't she buy you beer? Or if you're out driving around, go to the supermarket, go get us a case of beer and do X, Y, and Z. And he's like, Kevin, that's what I like about you. You're always looking for ways to like time. No matter how much you have, you can never buy time. And so if you can figure out how to 2, 3, 4 birds with one stone, that's something I've become very effective at. And like if I'm going to go to an auction, I see some stuff, I don't want to waste time on it. But if I look at something and I say I'm going to buy something, then I go all in. And like I've got to go up to New York, Utica, New York, to pick up that forklift. I bought 25 lots at that auction, 3 truckloads of stuff. I've thought about sending 1 truckload directly to my factory so I don't have to move it twice. I have so many things. I'll buy a table saw. load it on the truck, unload it, this and that. I figured it out. This is just for my own personal stupidity or for my own personal ego. How many times I move stuff to get it from here to there, and it's 9 to 11 times. I had a guy show up at my factories in Costa Rica at least 10 years ago, and they're pretty impressive back then. Big facilities and producing a lot. And he said, "Oh, did you buy this business?" And I was like, "I'm going to punch you in the nose. No, I started this." I remember when I was there in the hot sun, rolling logs around with a lever, a pry bar. And this busload of people went by and everybody started clapping and cheering because I was the only guy out there working in the hot sun. All the other guys were hiding in the shade and eating lunch. I was out there preparing the sawmill and rolling logs in. And this was when we first started. No machinery, no forklifts, no loaders or anything. We're working in the hot sun. Like they say, only Englishmen and mad dogs go in the hot sun in the tropics. And I've gone from not having one person with a driver's license to now you show up at our facilities and there's 50 vehicles there, cars and stuff, and things that I never thought we could do. I'll return to something I said earlier. It's like if I didn't explain it correctly and they weren't clear and there was a mistake made, that's on me. That's my fault. And so make certain, like, key thing as well is like getting really good manners, people you can trust. Like we've had instances where people steal money from us or do certain things. It's like, boy, a really smart guy taught me one time. He said, going into the business is like a marriage. You have to totally trust the other people. You're going to be in a partnership or whatever, because if you can't, it's not going to work. And I've been happily married for 34 years and looking forward to 34 more.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. Give us some plugs. How can we get in contact with you? How can we hear more about you?
If you look at our Diamond Teak website, I tell people, if you're not impressed by that, don't call me back. It's ergonomic, comfortable furniture. You're only limited by your imagination. Like I can make you a little 20-inch chair. I can make you a little 27-inch backless bench. Standard products we make, and then we make these beautiful benches. Like I sent you a bunch of pictures. PNC Bank in Pittsburgh that has its own zip code, has my bench in there below a world-famous LED light. You go on the Boeing tour out in Seattle, there's my Spirit Zone bench. You go in front of the Patent Trade Office in Washington, D.C., the guy showed up we won the highest award in the country for outdoor wooden furniture, teak furniture. He said to me, "Is that bench patented?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Prove it. I'll put you in front of the Patent Trade Office." So now my bench is in front of the Patent Trade Office in D.C., and we've got a lot of A-list clients and stuff like that. And then you look at our Diamond Tropical Hardwoods, where we sell the exotic woods and turning squares and pen blanks. We do a lot of slabs. Like we got a master list with slabs and bases and crosscuts on it with a couple $1 million inventory. You click on a link and it shows you pictures of both sides. People are like, "Wow, you're really well organized. How do you keep track of this?" I was like, "Well, we take some pictures, we measure things, we know what questions you're going to have, and we sell a lot of slabs and a lot of custom stuff. Like we get it right the first time. We had a project we did with the Cuddy Sark for the London Olympics. And the guy installing the wood was building the Shard, the tallest building in Europe, in London. And this guy said to the intermediary, this guy Simon, these companies, C. Leary and Tim Met, they've been around like 250 years. He said to the guy, "Why are you doing this here with Kevin? Why are you working with Diamond Tropical Hardwoods?" He said, "Because Kevin does it correctly the first time. They get it right. They're good at custom." He says, "If you do this in Asia or some other place," he says, "the joinery is not going to line up. The dimensions are wrong." We have guys that can look at the finest furniture in the world and make it without touching it, without making a jig, without doing any measurements or drawings. We like that stuff, but we do it. But I tell people, if you want like the highest figure, the best wood, the special stuff for your project you're going to do yourself, we're your company. We'll find you the best stuff.
I love that. I love that. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate your time.
Yeah, Kevin's links in the description if you guys want to get in contact with him. But again, this is the $100 Million podcast, and thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on, giving us a bunch of golden business nuggets, an inspiring story. It was super cool to hear about you and all that you've done. We really appreciate you guys. If you guys
thank you very much. Appreciate being on. Happy to help you and other people you work with.
Yes, love it.